Welcome back to the Balance Sheet, where we talk about all things in the world of women's wrestling. I'm one of your co-hosts, King Ajar,
And what's up, everybody? It's Billy.
and we got a lot to cover this week. We went through a almost WrestlePalooza of women's wrestling this weekend. But before we talk about the current events, this past August 22nd, which is I think on Friday, which is Friday, it was a 10-year anniversary of one of the most landmark matches of all time. A match that is memorialized behind you, sir. A
Yep.
match that many people say is the greatest women's match of all time. But let me take the word woman out of it. And to a lot of people, it is the greatest match of all time because everybody I think has a story of where they were August 22nd, 2015, watching two women who were relatively unknown, the formerly known as Sasha Banks, now Mercedes Monet, fighting Bayley in the culmination of what I call the summer of Sasha and Bayley in Brooklyn, Barclays Center, sold out, a legitimate sellout, no comps, no celebrity got free tickets. This was a everybody purchased the ticket event. Tony Khan, by the way, we'll get to him in a sec. He was in the audience that day in Brooklyn. Funny enough. So why don't you walk us through, Billy, what that match, which you have behind you, means to you, and what it has done for the genre that we love so much.
God, it's difficult to even know where to start. It's funny because the wrestling is not always the most joyous place, and whether you're on the Twitter with the internet wrestling community or in the crowd or whatever, is like people can get jaded about this business and the ups and downs of it. This is about, to me, the most wholesome kind of holy grail thing that we have left. You don't find people who have a bad opinion of this match. Um, it transcends, you know, tribalism and, um, you know, even misogyny in a lot of ways. And that's why it's so special, right? Like it actually does transcend decades of built in misogyny. Women can't wrestle, women are the bathroom break. Um, I get so inspired hearing Bayley and Mercedes talking about this match. They did a live on Friday to commemorate it, and they had to hide stuff. They did answer one of your
Yeah,
questions.
they only answered my question. I just want to point that out, but go ahead.
Yep. Well, it's funny is they answered your question, what's their favorite match that they've wrestled against each other besides Brooklyn? And their answer was Hell in the Cell. And here's what's crazy. 2015, Hell in a Cell was 2020,
Yeah.
and both matches they had to protect spots for fear, and they said this on the live, of being told they weren't allowed to do stuff because the men wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And so it transcends misogyny in a way, but it also still had a lot of the barriers up that the misogyny in the business kind of put there. But for me, it is my comfort match. It is my, if someone says, why do you guys do a women's wrestling podcast? When I tell people about this podcast, this would be the first match I would show them. Um, you've said it a lot. It's not like a perfectly technically brilliant match, but it is the greatest story ever told in a match, in my opinion, where you don't have to even see the vignette going into it. You can just watch the match and be like, I want to see that girl get her ass beat. And then the Poison Rana, you know, Bayley throwing the wristband, tightening the hair, and then like literally the greatest Bayley to belly that ever existed tenfold. I mean, like a rock, like feet in the air, like a rocket ship. Um, it's just perfect, and it's perfectly imperfect. It didn't have to be, again, the every spot went exactly according to plan, but the story was transcended even wrestling. It's a beautiful piece of art, is the best way to put it.
No, I have a lot to talk about. It's one of it is the most important women's wrestling match of all time, by far. It is one of the most
No
important
argument. Yeah.
matches of all time. I have long said my you use the word comfort match. The two matches I've watched the most in my life, Ricky Steamboat, Randy Savage, WrestleMania 3, and I look at Sasha Banks, Bayley, Brooklyn as the B-side or the woman's version to that match. But here's the thing. I realized this weekend, I watched both back to back. Sasha Bayley is actually better than Ricky Steamboat Savage, and I'll tell you why. How did Ricky Steamboat Savage end? George the Animal Steel pushed Randy Savage off the turnbuckle. Steamboat small packaged him. So basically, the babyface cheated to win. If
Yes.
you're being honest, I understand at the time their whole plan was we're gonna make Macho Man the big star. He's gonna be the next Hogan, and they did that. He was that. Macho Man was one of the biggest stars of all time. But when you go back and watch and you want to be nitpicky, I feel like Steamboat should have won that match clean. Like, I
Yeah.
don't think they needed to protect a guy who held the title for 16 months in a row, where he couldn't just cleanly lose to a crossbody, 1, 2, 3. Hey, you know what? Steamboat was just the better guy that day. So to me, the reason I have Sasha Bayley ahead of comparing those two matches is because of it was the perfect match with the perfect ending. See, so I think there have been women's wrestling matches, by the way, that both women have wrestled in that have passed it in terms of mechanical matches in the ring. But I don't know if any match will ever make everybody, like you said, and you used the correct term, universally, nobody complained about the finish to that match.
No.
Nobody was like, oh my God, how could they do that to Sasha Banks? What did they do? Nobody cared. Every hardcore Sasha Banks fan, including myself, and I was like a die. I'm still a die, but I was like red hair, the boss, the glasses. I'm like, this is my girl. You gotta lose, and you gotta lose clean. You gotta get your ass kicked, and it's perfect. And when she did the tying and the crowd went nuts and she did the belly to belly. So I know people who were in that audience, multiple people, and they have told me that it was so amazing that they didn't even watch Finn Balor, Kevin Owens. They
Right.
all went to the lobby to get a coffee or a beer, and they're like, "Oh my God, did you just see that? It
Like a euphoric
like
feeling.
holy, I like I said, I tweeted the story. I was moving from Chicago to Texas. I was in a U-Haul. I had Oreo, my dog, with me, and I kept getting these texts. "Yeah, this is the greatest match of all time." And again, this is not the days of an iPhone where it was like what it is today. It was like these are text messages like coming in the middle of the cornfields. Oh, best match ever. Charlotte Flair fans who I knew messaged me. This was the best thing they've ever seen. They're like, okay, maybe your girl is the best. Like this was, like you said, I had somebody tell me who's been watching wrestling longer than me that it was a top 10 match. And this is a person who grew up through the Ric Flair, Barry Windham era. And they were like, oh, this is one of the 10 best matches I've ever seen. So, like you said, universally. And so I have in my envelope here a comparison, right? And everybody wants to know what it is. So there's a difference between best and important, or like there are certain pieces of art, because music is art, wrestling is art, that after they were released they fundamentally changed that genre. I think Sasha Banks and Bailey, it's the demarcation point of women's North American women's wrestling prior. I'm not talking about Japan. I know all the stuff Toyota and everybody did. I'm talking about North America. Name me a match before that match that anybody really cared about for North American women's wrestling. I know people are gonna say, "Oh, you're not talking Gail." No, but nobody, Gail Kim Awesome Kong. Nobody was tweeting about it. Nobody was like losing their mind. It was a good match. I think it changed the business. I think from that moment, women wanted to wrestle like that. They're like, you know what? I can do that. I can do that match.
Can outshine the men.
I can outshine the men, outshine aliens. Samoa. I'm going to take Samoa Joe's quote. He goes, "That match was good, whether it was men, women, aliens. Doesn't matter. It was a great match." So hip hop, which is kind of where I always do these parallels. Everybody rapped a certain way. They rapped cat and hat, bat, combat. Like it was very simplistic. It was very basic. There was no texture to it. There was no talking about other things. It was just I'm this, I'm that. Very braggadocious. No real like wordplay. No technical brilliance. No James Brown production. It was very basic. And then one album came out in 1987. By the way, the same year that Ricky Steamboat and Macho Man had their match, and it changed everything. And this is the album. So Gil, this is the album. It's not Illmatic. It's actually Eric B. and Rakim's Paid in Full. If you
Would have
go and
guessed that.
listen to any rapper after that album came out, they said after I heard Rakim, I interviewed when I was in the music business, I interviewed Juvenile. Juvenile is the Southern rapper from New Orleans. Back that ass up. And he said, I threw every rhyme I wrote after I heard Paid in Full because I'm like, this sucks. I got to change how I rap. I have met individuals in Tokyo, Japan, who told me they learned how to speak English from that album. So, in the same way, Sasha Banks and Bayley, I think, changed women's wrestling the same way Eric B. and Rakim's Paid in Full changed hip hop. And look, 10 years ago, if you could have taken the now Mercedes Moné and said, hey, where would you like your career to be? I think she would have said, you know what? There's going to be 10 years from today. I'm going to be wrestling in England. And then I'm going to get in a car and I might go to the United Kingdom again. And I'm going to be wrestling in multiple promotions and I'm going to be wrestling multiple opponents. And you might see me wrestling somebody from Mexico or somebody from Stardom or somebody from, the United Kingdom. Like, so as we talk about the importance of Brooklyn, there is no this week for Mercedes Monet if Brooklyn didn't have the impact it has. So I'm going to turn it back over to you. Mercedes had a hell of a week. Four matches in what, 5 days?
Four
Six.
matches in 5 days. Um, it's the type of week that those of us who've been around and a fan for a long time, 10 years plus, it's like buying Apple stock in the 80s, and you just look at it now and you're like, damn, I knew it. Um, it's a victory lap type of week. Uh, she should be incredibly proud of herself. Started with a tag match at Dynamite, her and Athena versus Tony Storm and Alex Windsor in Glasgow. Uh, her her and Athena won. Um, and that kind of kicked off the week. Uh, Friday, she wrestled Emerson Jane at night one of Global Wars UK, right? Under the RevPro banner. And she wins the Discovery Women's Championship, her ninth title.
Mhm.
We'll talk about it, but the match was incredible.
A great match.
Really, really, really good match. So then Saturday, you have her, Danny Luna, and Kanji versus Cutthroat Collective. Members Sapphire Reed, Alex Windsor, and Nina Samuels. Sapphire Reed's somebody who, we don't have enough time on the podcast probably to talk through it. I mean, the laundry list of women who wrestle because of Sasha Banks and Bayley, Sapphire Reed is one of them.
Yeah.
Um, and then finished up tonight. We're recording this after Forbidden Door. Had a four-way match with, again, Alex Windsor, and then first time in the ring with Persephone from CMLL and Bozilla from Stardom. So, I mean, there's a lot to unpack there. We'll start with her whole week. All four matches are very good. She doesn't phone anything in. You think four matches in 5 days, maybe a little bit more fun in the trios match on Saturday. She didn't take the, as many of the bumps, but still a very engaged match. And finished it off, quite frankly, getting thrown around the ring. As she does,
Yeah.
trying to make the other three women rich, essentially, you know, trying to make the other three women stand out as big as they can, which I would say mission accomplished. Um, the Emerson Jane match and the four way are two of my favorite matches of hers this year, and that's saying a lot because she's been killing it all year. But I mean, I'm just in awe at this point. Um, you go into the week going, man, I hope she doesn't get hurt. That's a lot. No one at her level is wrestling 4 out of 5 days on TV. No house shows. No, all this was one TV match and three pay-per-view matches. No, no fun house show. Roll around spots. And she brought it. And not only did she not get hurt, she once again proved she was the best in the world. This is awesome. And I'm gonna kick it back to you, but just the feeling that I have about the world of wrestling as a whole is as good as I've felt about it based on some of the women that we saw this week. But what were your thoughts on kind of the last
Well,
couple days?
so here's the thing. Ashley Flair is Ric Flair's real daughter. But Mercedes Moné, Mercedes Vernado, is Ric Flair's wrestling daughter. There
Yeah,
is no wrestler that I can compare her to other than Ric Flair. This is who, if you like me know about Ric Flair in the 80s, that's what Ric Flair was doing. He would be in Kansas City against Harley Race, then he would go to New Zealand to fight Bruiser Brody, then he would go to Tokyo to fight Inoki, then he would come back to Baltimore to fight, Lex Luger. Like that's what Ric Flair was doing. And Mercedes Moné is doing exactly the same blueprint, which is I'm going to show you I am the best professional wrestler in the world. Notice I did not say women's or men's, best professional wrestler. And I'm going to do it by wrestling different women every night. So, I'm going to wrestle Emerson Jane, or I'm sorry, I'm going to first start off teaming with Athena, which we've never done before,
yep.
wrestling Tony Storm and Alex Windsor on TV. That was the main event, right?
It was the main event. Yep.
Was the main event. Okay, so it was the main event in Scotland, and very hot crowd. And then she says, "Okay, I'm gonna go to RevPro Friday. I'm gonna wrestle Emerson Jane, somebody she's never touched before, in a real match." And they had a killer match. And again, of the matches that the women had this weekend, that was my favorite match of all of
Not
them.
just Mercedes, all of
No,
them.
I'm
Yep.
talking about all the women's matches, and there were a lot of good ones this weekend. I thought NXT did a really good job with Heatwave. I thought, we could talk about AEW in a sec, but like that was my favorite match because I know how good Mercedes is. So that's not a shock to me that she's good because she's one of the best ever. Emerson Jane, and we, I put at her on Twitter like, "Hey, I was not familiar with your game. I apologize." She's phenomenal. Like the stuff she was doing, like that twisted RKO cutter off the rope and the back suplex that she
After the
did.
backslide suplex, yeah, out of the
She was phenomenal. And on Saturday, in the six-person match, that was a fun six-person match. Like it was Like that's a match that I want to see on TV, like in front of a bigger audience. Like I think that match
Yeah.
would entertain a lot of people. And then she has now a pay-per-view match in front of the largest crowd for professional wrestling ever in the O2 Arena. Congratulations, Tony Khan, everybody in AEW. You broke the Money in the Bank record, and that was the Money in the Bank that Io won Money in the Bank, funny enough. But this show had a hot crowd from the 0 hour. And, Mercedes went out there again, three very unfamiliar opponents. In fact, I don't think she's ever touched two out of the three. She's touched obviously Windsor. And, she went out there and said, I'm going to make these three women into stars. And I think she accomplished it. I think Windsor was already over, but I think the other two women really got put on the map with this match. She was outstanding. She was bumping her ass off. She was literally getting ragdolled from pillar to post. And, four ways are tough to navigate. I think four ways are very tough matches to navigate because like everybody talks about three ways, but I think a three-way with like again the Mania three-way, those three women have worked so much with each other that they know where everybody's going to be. They could probably do it blindfolded, but this was different. These are four women who don't have much chemistry, and they still managed to have a really really entertaining match. And like I said, this is not the forum to discuss who is the best in the ring wrestler in the world for the women because to me it's such a nuanced conversation that it's just not worth having. I think we should enjoy all of the great women out there. I think Mercedes has a clear cut. I think if you're doing that PWI thing, I think she's clear cut the number one because she's done so many different things that a publication like PWI should appreciate because it's in the lineage of a Ric Flair. I know everybody talks about EO, but like I said, the degree of difficult, like if let's say Mercedes and EO are even, right? And a lot of people think they are. The degree of difficulty that Mercedes is doing compared to EO is like this because EO works with an all-star team every week.
Yep.
She works with all-stars. I mean, the worst woman she might work with this year is Raquel. And Raquel is better than a lot of the women on a lot of rosters.
I'll put words in your mouth because I know what you mean, but just to clarify, Mercedes is working with what we're finding to be incredibly talented women like Emerson Jane. Io's working with all stars who she's familiar with and
Yes,
has played
that's
with
the
before.
yes.
And
So these
so
like Emerson
Mercedes
Jane's amazing.
unknown, and then they turn out being great, but it's still first time off the get. The
But there's
degree
a
of
there's a
difficulty is so much
pressure
higher.
thing though. There's a pressure thing that I have to give Mercedes all the credit because if Io Sky and Rhea Rip, by the way, and this is actually happened. Mania and Evolution, people talk about how amazing those two matches were. People talk about the Raw match where Io won the title is amazing. People forget Io and Rhea had a stinker on Raw. They had a stinker. They had a stinker where nothing seemed to go right for them, and Bianca had to interfere and was the ref. They were able to have stinkers and nobody cares. Because
Mm-hmm.
is Rhea Ripley going to lose her spot because she had a stinker? No. Is Io going to lose her spot? No. The point I'm trying to make here is that Emerson Jane, this could be her career. Like Emerson Jane, if she went out there and had a bad match with Mercedes, people are like, you're minor leagues, you're Rev Pro. But for her, the pressure that's on an Emerson Jane or an Alex Windsor or a Bozilla or a Persephone, it's like this is their Super Bowl. And they got to go out there and deliver. And the pressure is on Mercedes because Mercedes has to be on her game because Mercedes can't be like, oh, I can take the day off because who cares about me because I'm secure because then they would look at her as unprofessional. Oh, like she's not putting over the younger talent. She's not helping them. So Mercedes has that level of pressure that nobody is talking about. So for that alone, I'm going to crown her as my PWI Wrestler of the Year. Now, I want to preface this. I am not saying she's the best women's wrestler in the world or wrestler in the world in terms of ring because I think that you can go back and forth. My point is for this year and for what she has accomplished, she has the belt.
I will say she's the best wrestler in the world, in my opinion, but I've never been shy about that. Something that I want to highlight though is it's her hidden superpower, especially for people who don't, consume the business the way that we do and they just watch matches. But if you if you put 100 matches in front of me with multiple people in them, and you told me that Mercedes produced one of the 100 matches, I guarantee you I could pick it out. Because something that I appreciate, she did in the Royal Rumble, she did in Money in the Bank matches, she does it in triple threat matches, and she certainly did it in this match. She is better at organizing the chaos in a way that still feels like a fight. The big spots don't feel so choreographed and somebody waited or they're in a position they would never be in. And I'll just call it out right now. Watch the men's, whatever the hell they called that main event. Tanahashi was going to climb the ladder. They did a funny spot and they convinced him to come off of it. He was going to jump on a table and they're like, no. Well, then everyone watches Will Ospreay climb a ladder or climb on top of the cage, and the bad guys and everyone just kind of stood up and I mean, literally, they waited there for a minute and a half to get jumped on. Cool spot, but it takes me out of the fight. What I appreciate about her matches, again, all the Royal Rumble she was involved in, the Money in the Banks, any multi women. She's very, very her wrestling mind is prodigious. Um, Putting together matches in a way that makes sense certainly shines in a one-on-one match as well. But it really sticks out to me in multi women matches because it's so different from the rest of the genre, and men and women multi person matches generally are discombobulated. That's why the Mania 3-way was so special. Obviously, she had nothing to do with that one. Um, those three women basically went out there and all threw a fastball and it worked. It usually doesn't work as smoothly as it did at Mania. But I the last thing I was going to say on it, I enjoyed this week and I've enjoyed this whole run because there's a moment in time where WWE opened the Performance Center, you know, was signing athletes and new NXT classes like crazy, doing WWE ID, signing college athletes, and basically saying the future of wrestling for us is going to be on our terms and we're going to build people in a factory. And it's going to be college athletes, it's going to be influencers. There will be some independent wrestlers, but essentially the path to stardom runs through the Performance Center. And I'm reminded of I'll go a little, you do music, I'll do movies. I think of Jeff Goldblum in Jurassic Park. Life finds a way.
Yeah.
And so you have this ecosystem outside of WWE and Mercedes, AEW too, shining a light in all these different areas. And you just go 3 months ago and then fast forward to today and you've got all these names starting to pop up around the place that some tuned in people knew about, but on the main stage not a lot of people knew about. Bozilla was extremely impressive today. Persephone, very very impressive today and on Saturday against Emerson Jane. They wrestled a match as well that I enjoyed. Emerson Jane, shout out to Chrissy who loves Emerson Jane. I was not aware of how good she was. We got introduced to Sapphire Reed a couple months back. I'll even go to the MPX show, Maya World and Billy killing it. There's just so much happening underneath the surface right now. And again, I'll tie it back to this match, but you have so much talent coming up through the ranks, and essentially WWE doesn't get to say that we're going to hoard all of it because the life finds a way quote is the cream's going to rise to the top. And there'll be plenty that rise to the top in the Performance Center as well. I'm just saying it's a very great time to be a fan. We have a whole great new generation of women coming up.
So Mount Rushmore, NXT graduates that did not have independent wrestling background.
Hmm. Is all four of them Bianca Belair?
No,
Just kidding.
but
It's a joke.
Bianca's
I know.
no, but here's the thing though. Bianca's actually I'll get to her in a sec. So you have I'm gonna say Roman Reigns,
Okay.
Charlotte Flair,
Okay.
Alexa Bliss, Bianca Belair. These are four individuals that had no prior independent wrestling background. Seth Rollins was, Tyler Black, Ring of Honor champion, Mercedes, uh, Mercedes KV, Davina Rose, Becky Lynch. All of these individuals were independent wrestlers, right? Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, list goes on and on and on. Finn Balor, I look at those four, but here's the thing. I'm going to take two out. I'm going to take Roman Reigns and I'm going to take Charlotte Flair out because they were in the business. Roman
Family. Yep.
Reigns and Charlotte Flair are blue bloods, prestigious wrestling families. Their entry path is a lot easier. It's a phone call. I mean, what the Charlotte story? She's at Hall of Fame, and John Laurinaitis says, "Hey, why don't you give it a shot? You're Ric Flair's daughter." Huh, okay, that's easy. Roman Reigns, Hall of Famer, Sika's son. Uh, he,
Football doesn't work out.
yeah, football doesn't work out. Okay, give this wrestling thing a try. Okay, and to his credit, he's one of the biggest stars of all time. Alexa Bliss and Bianca Belair are my remaining two. I am a huge Alexa Bliss fan. Everybody knows this, but I feel like from an in-ring work rate standpoint, while she has improved, and I think she's better today than she was then, you could say that her character is what got her to where she is, not her wrestling ability.
Right.
And that's fine. I mean, because she sold a lot of merchandise. She draws. She's a fan favorite. People love her. She gets some of the loudest pops ever. Bianca Belair is the best and the worst thing that ever happened to the Performance Center. She's the
Hmm.
best. She is my valedictorian of the Performance Center. She's also the worst thing because they said, oh my goodness, I can go to a track and field meet and I'm going to find the next 10 Bianca Belairs. Or I'm going to go to a volleyball tournament and I'm going to get the next 20. Like, Bianca Belair is a literal unicorn in the sense of she didn't know anything about wrestling. She didn't watch it. Her brother watched it. She comes in, she picks it up like that. She understood the theatric aspect of it from, I know Montez told her about the braid, but from the moment I saw Bianca Belair wrestle Mae Young Classic against Kairi Sane, I was like, that woman is a star. And in fact, I've told this on the podcast before. My ex-wife was sitting there and she goes, I want to see her against Sasha Banks. Like without any hesitation, it was just like, I want to see her against Sasha Banks. And it's like I knew then she was going to be a big star. And we were all right. How many more Bianca Belairs are they going to churn out this way? Whereas what I like about what I saw this week, to add to your point, is I like to see the women who are wrestling the independents, who are getting the calluses, because that's
There's a
how
soul to it.
Eddie Guerrero was discovered. And that's how, I know he's taboo to talk about, but that's how Chris Benoit was discovered, and Chris Jericho, and Edge, and Christian, and you know, uh, on the women's side, Becky Lynch, Mercedes KV, Davina Rose, you know, Io
Roxanne
Sky,
Perez.
Roxanne Perez, Io, Asuka, Kyrie, like these are all women who worked, independents, Shimmer, California promotions, Japanese independents, and I'm I am not okay with every single women's performer coming through the same assembly line. Yes, the Kalani Jordans and the Lola Vices and the Jada
Tiffany
Parkers, the
Stratton.
Flash Legends, Tiffany Stratton, they will make it. But hold on though. But here's the thing with Tiffany. Tiffany was trained by Greg Gagne before she ever got to WWE. So I took her out on purpose because she was already training to be a professional wrestler by one of the great minds in the history of wrestling in Greg Gagne. So it was like she knew she was going to get to WWE and they were already gearing her up. So I take her out of it. But like Kalani Jordan's great. And, Lash Legend's great. And Jada Parker's great. And Lola Vice. They're great. We talk about Stephanie Vakor. Look at her story, independent. So I'm with you. This weekend gave me real optimism that there is this world of women's wrestling out there that even I, as much as I pride myself on knowing a lot of this stuff, and as somebody who used to tape trade Miami Toyota matches, I didn't know Emerson Jane was. And I'm glad that Mercedes, on her mission to grow women's wrestling and make it global, has said, I'm going to go wrestle this person because I now know who Kanji is, and I know who Emerson Jane is, and I know who Danny is, and I know who Alex Windsor is. Now, Alex Windsor was already coming to AEW, but like, I am able to know about these women who I would not have known because none of them fit the NXT stereotype of what they're looking for. And I got to be honest, I am a purist. I do not want influencers who don't know anything about wrestling to say, "Yeah, you know what? I can give this thing a try because there's no other career path for me." I'm not a big fan of that. I like the Roxanne Perez stories of watching Sasha and Bailey and wanting to do it. Indy Hartwell, Elena
Yeah.
Black. Like, I like this. So
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Yeah. And, I said, it's got soul. Hey, don't hear me wrong. I love Bianca, and she has one of the best stories out there. I love Kalani. I've been hyping Kalani up for a long time. We'll talk about it. She shined
Yeah,
tonight.
she's great.
Um, it's a great new route to find additional stars that WWE found. The worry for a while, though, because WWE is this way, is, well, we're going to do it our way. And for a minute there, still, they're trying to control the terms of everything, right? They want to be in control of all of it. And, you know, wrestling is going to be better for these women getting additional spots on cards that used to have one women's match if we were lucky. Um, and this weekend was a huge step forward. Shout out to RevPro,
Yeah.
which is technically the largest indie wrestling company in the world. It's the largest one that's not a major. You know what I mean?
So you count CMLL as a major. Yeah.
Correct.
They
CMLL
are. They are.
is a major. AAA is a major. TNA is a major. NJPW is a major. Stardom is a major. Obviously WWE and AEW, but um, RevPro is they said, one of their press releases said that they're the largest indie company out there. So shout out to them. Watching their cards, the women feel like part of the show that is equal or higher ground where need be. They got no problem putting Mercedes in the main event on the top of the you know promotional and all that. So I enjoyed everything I saw from all of the women across these shows this week, and there was a lot of wrestling. It was awesome.
Bianca Belair is a gift and a curse. She's a gift and
Yeah.
she's a curse. You know who Bianca Belair is, really? She's Steph
Who?
Curry. She's Steph Curry. Everybody thinks that they can shoot 40-foot three-pointers because Steph Curry makes it look very easy, and it's kind of watered the game down. Now, Bianca Belair has not watered down the game, but
If
her
you're watching Bianca Belair do it, it's great.
but her success has watered down the creativity of WWE in recruiting because remember, this is the same company that found Becky Lynch and Mercedes and Davina Rose and Io and Steph. Like, they're not that creative anymore because they have, in their opinion, a blueprint and a controlling blueprint because Bianca Belair never dreamed for how great she is, and she is great. She is one of my favorite women's performers of all time, maybe all time performer, period. She never dreamed about wrestling in All Japan because she didn't know what it was. or knew she didn't know any of these places, right? And the people coming into the performance center now are they're not wrestling fans, but they see a Bianca Belair's success and stardom and fame, and she's on TV shows and she's on the ESPYs and she's making a lot of money and she has a she has a really good look. Like she has the perfect. It's like, well, I want to do that, and I love the independent grind, the stories like the Indy Hartwell stories and the Shotzi Blackheart stories. Like I like the grind that way. Speaking of grind, there is a very controversial match that happened at AEW Forbidden Door. So we talked about the four-way being really good. Mercedes retained. We all know Mercedes is going to hold that belt until she breaks Jade's record, and then she might lose to somebody. But Athena Tony Storm also happened. And I'm being honest here, I thought it might have been the worst match on the card. And for whatever the reason is, Athena losing had my timeline in a big uproar. They were not happy. You watched the match. What did you think of the match? What did you think of the outcome? And what are your next steps for Tony and Athena?
Yeah, so I was not shocked that Athena lost. Um, I'm not a genius. I don't own a wrestling company, but when you've made clear that a performer is on your pantheon of performers for your company ever, as Tony Khan has made clear that Tony Storm is, you do not let someone promo. If this is where the best wrestle, then why the hell is this bitch on top? And then they're talking about your pantheon champion, and then that champion loses. It just doesn't happen in this business. I tweeted it, I put it in our group chat. The minute Athena said that, this really was a toss up for me. I thought if you booked it where Athena the Destroyer comes in and she just out athletes Tony, you could tell that story that, hey, Mercedes screwed up and let Tony get in her head, but Athena just came in, balls to the wall, no fluff, and just killed her. You could have kind of told that if you worked on it. But the minute that she basically said she's nothing, she's not one of the best, um, I knew Tony was winning because Tony Khan's not gonna not protect his babyface champion like that. So wasn't shocked at the outcome. Didn't love the way the match was produced at all. Um, I was surprised that Athena tapped. Um, they protect tapping. Like if you're not familiar with AEW, um, even when Mercedes has made people tap, she's hit the I almost think exclusively everyone she's made tap, she hit a moneymaker and then crossface and then they tap. Stephanie Vicor for sure, I recall. But she hasn't really gotten anyone to tap in an AEW ring with just the crossface, the statement maker. Tapping is rare. I was very shocked that Athena tapped. I wasn't shocked she lost. I was shocked she tapped. Um, way too much. You gave a great opinion before we started recording. This is the story they told is Athena didn't take her seriously. But I mean, God, she spent 10 minutes of that match just pruning and preening for the crowd. And that's not her. Like that's not
It's a bad, yeah.
to me, that's not her. Maybe I
You
missed it in ROH. There's some matches, but who she's been on main roster, that didn't. She wasted no time against Mercedes. She was a demon against Mercedes. Did not let up off the gas. It was a little overkill, and it hurt the match.
So you have a good theory, or actually, it's an opinion, which is, hey, it was a poor produced match. Like the agent who booked it, who sat down with them and said, "Hey, let's lay it out." It was not good. They didn't do a good job. That's a fair point. That's a fair point.
Yeah,
I would say the story wasn't good. And so the agent who produced the match followed the story but the story wasn't already good. Um, and here's my problem with the story. Toni Storm is one of the most dominant women competitors of all time. Timeless, not rocker chick Toni Storm, but timeless Toni Storm. She's Nobody has beaten Mercedes Moné, okay? Nobody except her. The same person who beat Athena. So Athena doesn't take a person who beat somebody she couldn't beat seriously. That's a flawed logic there. Like, number two, Athena's not the champion. Toni Storm is the champion, right? Now, this is where I know a lot of people don't love the Money in the Bank concept because it's lazy. Triple H, he said it's lazy booking. Okay, fine. But if Athena had a briefcase, she could be as arrogant as she was. You know why? Because at any time she could strike and get the belt. But she has to actually wrestle a match that Tony knows is coming. Why would she be so arrogant? It doesn't make any sense to me. Okay.
Right.
As a match, and again, I am not Athena's biggest supporter in terms of like her character doesn't do it for me. You know, she's great in the ring. She's phenomenal. And the match with Mercedes is phenomenal. And the match, the tag match they had, she's other than Io, I don't know anybody whose moves I like. They just have an oomph to it like Athena. Like
The offense is
she
incredible.
hits everything so clean, right? This match, I didn't like this match. I'm just gonna be honest. I love the timeless Toni Storm character, and I know she's capable because the match with Mercedes is phenomenal. And I know Athena is capable because the match with Mercedes is phenomenal. And Asuka. But this match, for whatever reason, just didn't do it for me. And yes, Athena sauntering and jumping around and doing that stuff, but like even the wonkiness of Billy interfering, then Mina comes out and just chased her, and then like they tried to do the spot, and then it just to me, this is like this isn't gonna this match will not get criticized as much because people are so mad at Athena losing. This is Britt Baker Mercedes. That's what this match was to me. It was you had this match that you had bigger expectations for, and it just didn't deliver. And that's what I think this match was.
I'll watch both. You know what? Write it down. I'll watch both matches back to back this week, and I'm almost certain that I like Britt Baker Mercedes more than I like this match. I'm just gonna be honest. It, it, uh, what's next? Well, I still think they've got Athena, just about 1,000 days with the ROH title. I don't think she's losing to Mina on Friday. Do you? That's this coming Friday, Death
Ooh,
Before
Athena?
Dishonor.
Uh, I think she should lose.
She's not at 1,000 days yet, though.
Okay.
She's so close.
Okay, so she gets the 1,000 days. I guess my thing is the other thing is Athena Ring of Honor and AEW are the same company. So Athena is this destroyer on Ring of Honor, and then she comes to AEW and she's semi booked like a joke. Like she's not really booked great in AEW. Like she lost to
She's
Mercedes.
she's been the dominant person in most of the multi women matches she's in. Like she's been getting the pins on the tag matches. I
Yeah.
think she pinned Tony right in a
Yeah.
tag match.
But everybody,
She's
I
the
mean,
first.
Shirakawa pins Tony, right?
That's true. She's the first person who beat Alex Windsor in AEW. She pinned her Wednesday. Um, so I hope they keep her on TV. I've actually loved the character that she's been. I do think the angle of her not taking Tony seriously is a little dumb. Um, it'd be like someone compared on Twitter today, they're saying Tony's title reign's getting stale like Roman Reigns did. Roman Reigns did a lot of business in that title reign, but if you didn't take the bloodline seriously 2 years into that title reign, that was on you, brother. You know what I mean? And Tony, Tony is like Teflon in these per view matches. She don't lose them. And Athena, the the performer that Athena is and should be smart enough to know that Tony Storm on a major pay per view match is no joke. She rises to the occasion. That's the story. So, um, that being said, what is next for Tony? I want to punt to next week on this. I'd like to see what Wednesday looks like. I think All Out will have Tony and Mercedes separated still. I think we're going to get them again together sooner rather than later, though, sometime this year in 2025. Tony Khan, during the post pay per view press conference, listen, Tony Storm is the most deserving woman to main event a pay per view show for AEW as the first person. I am as big of a Mercedes fan as there is. I think Mercedes is also very deserving to be the one in that match. You can't have that match without Tony. So one day when Mercedes gets the belt and we're all going to say she's a pay-per-view main eventer, it really needs to happen while Tony has the belt right now. So Tony Khan kind of played his hand. He's a big-time liar, and I don't think he is. He'd be lying. Their rematch is going to be a main event. So when does that happen is the question.
Well, to me, you said it. Tony Storm has to main event. It has to be one of the two women who main event. And the other person has to be Mercedes. And here's why. We have yet to see, and I'm just being honest about this. Tony Storm, in my opinion, is a great worker. She can be. I've seen her do it in Stardom. I've seen her do it when they gave her chances in WWE. I've seen her do it in AEW. But there are two standout matches she's had in her career in AEW. One is Mariah May, the other is Mercedes. Well, Mariah May ain't coming back. She ain't walking through that door. And we'll talk about the new Blake Monroe here in a sec. Mercedes Moné is, in my opinion, the best big match performer ever for women other than Manami Toyota. And in North American wrestling, it's definitely her. If you want a main event to not deliver, meaning to deliver, you have to put Mercedes in it. So to me, it's both of them. It's Mercedes Moné, it's Tony Storm, number two, main event, because you know Mercedes Moné is showtime. I mean, when it comes to okay, look. Hell in a Cell against Charlotte Flair was not a good.
There was no saving that decision, though.
But okay, but that's the point. That match wasn't good. But if Sasha Banks won, that match goes from a 2 to a 3.5, like that. Just like that. Because the hometown girl gets the fireworks and she gets yeah, you feel good. Like we talked about it. Sometimes walking, like when Cody Rhodes beat Roman Reigns, I have friends of mine in this city who were hugging each other because they were so happy. That's what it would have been. But back to this. Mercedes Moné, Tony Storm have to main event against each other because it's going to deliver. You cannot we want the women to main event. And then put Tony Storm in there with an unknown commodity. Because
we're the best wrestle and then the main event. And I know the main event, Moxley bombed the main event many times, but the men get that. They unfairly get to do that. The women, their first one has to hit. We're the best wrestle. The first women's main event has to hit.
It's misogyny and it's sexism of the worst kind. When Shayna Baszler and Bayley and Becky main evented Survivor Series and it was not a good match, people were like, you never let the women main it. Because remember, up to that point of all the women's main events on pay-per-view, there was only 1 out of 4 that were good. Sasha Charlotte wasn't good. Charlotte, Becky, Ronda was not good. Shayna, Becky, Bayley was not good. The only one that was good was Sasha Bayley, Iron Woman, right? So you have 4 main event women's matches and 1 is good. That's a bad batting average. So they were like, okay, Should we give the women but then Sasha Banks, Bianca, psh, out of the park, home run, over the fences. Rhea Io, psh, home run, out of the park. Asuka, Becky, Charlotte, main event, TLC, great. So I think we're getting to a point where the women will main event more. I think AEW has to break the seal. Like I love Tony. I think he's doing amazing work, but he has to stop talking about it and he has to just do it at this point. Like
Yeah.
he has to just do it. So speaking of Blake Monroe, in our group chat, I made a prediction that Blake Monroe and Jordan Grace would have the best women's match of the weekend. And I was close because of all the matches I watched this weekend, I think this was my second favorite. And the reason I say that is number one, these two women both needed a good performance because I think their characters are very flat on NXT TV. Number two, I think they both like to stiff each other. That was like a stardom match. Like I was like, are they hitting each other for real? Like they were really stiffing each other. I love this match, but we're gonna cover the NXT Heatwave as lots of good women's representation on this show before we get to our top five segment. So, what did you think of NXT Heatwave? And let's go. What did you think of Blake and Jordana Grace?
Blake and Jordan Grace was very good. Blake needed it. You're absolutely right. That's a performance she could build off of and lock in that thing, that she had in AEW and start to lock it in NXT. And that it thing is frankly, oh, here's the girl that used to do the WWE shop, model stuff. And oh, wow, she's very attractive. And is she really punching that woman in the face? And oh, did she really just get kicked in the head? And she's a violent wrestler. That's, you know, she wrestles like Kevin Owens or something, like it's, it, it doesn't, it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit her looks. There, and it's different from like say like a Sasha Banks violence of wrestling because Sasha Mercedes, when she's a heel, her her work is very violent in a very technical manner. She's still a very polished wrestler.
Yeah.
Um, and when she's a face, it's violent. She's consuming the violence being thrown around. Blake, it's less about technical wrestling and more about throwing, elbows and knee strikes. And you nailed it. It's a very stardom like approach. She wrestles, a little bit like Julia, right? Like it's similar style, a lot of striking, and they need her in the ring showing this a little bit more, and the promos will stop to feel so forced because the promos work when you know that she's vindictive and mean in the ring. And so she needed this. Jordan Grace is the worst booked woman that they've signed the last 2 years.
She is. Yeah.
Jordan Grace she finished top 10 in the PWI last year or the year before. Whenever she had her TNA, I mean, you got to understand, Trinity had the run of her lifetime, and who did she drop the belt to? It was Jordan, right?
Yeah.
Jordan is a blue chip signee who they've treated like a seventh round draft pick.
She's an enhancement talent. That's what she strikes me as at this point.
And I'm not picking on her. I'm going to bat for her. Go back and watch both Royal Rumbles that she participated in. Gigantic pops.
Mm-hmm.
And they've undermined. You actually hope that when she goes to main roster, most of those people don't watch NXT. Like,
yeah.
As far as Jordan Grace is concerned,
mm-hmm.
if you put her in front of a crowd, WWE, that doesn't watch NXT, I bet she'll get a huge pop when she debuts. But most people consume both, or a lot of people at least know about both, right? I don't see no point in her waiting around to win the. She'll just never win the NXT belt. They just need to get her to main. They just need to get her to main because I don't think she's next. I don't think she's next, and she's
No.
too seasoned to be down there for another year.
I think they need to think they need to take her off it. Like she needs to have like a loser leave NXT match with Blake, lose the match, and then they need to take her off TV for like 2 months and bring her back as a
At the
destroyer.
Rumble, or bring her back at the Rumble.
Bring her back as a heel monster. Bring her back as somebody who like attacks Rhea Ripley. Like seriously, like just have somebody
That's a
attack.
Goosebumps type match.
Yeah, yeah, just have somebody like her, have her attack Rhea Ripley, lay her out. To me, Rhea Ripley is the easy, like, she's literally the easy answer to fix any problem for WWE because if you want to get heat on somebody, just have them jump Rhea Ripley. Other than EO, EO does it. People are split audiences, but like other than EO, anybody who touches Rhea gets booed. To me, I would. This is what I would love to see out of Jordan Grace. I would like to see Jordan Grace be the next member of Judgment Day. I would like to see her be somebody like why can't she be Becky Lynch's bodyguard? Like,
Yeah.
if you think about Becky Lynch's character, I'm big star Bex, fur coat, private jet, bus. Why doesn't she have a security person? And Jordan Grace is not what was her name? The Mercedes person, the one we saw debut.
Camille.
Camille. Okay. Jordan Grace is a proven commodity. So she would work in this angle. Like to me, I hate to do this. I would do this gimmick with Jordan Grace. I would do the Virgil gimmick. I would literally have her be Becky Lynch's Virgil for a year and build up to where Jordan Grace beats Becky in like 2 minutes at a WrestleMania, and instantly you're off to the races with her.
We're throwing a lot against the wall here. But that just let me reiterate. If you're not familiar with Jordan Grace and TNA, we're throwing a lot against the wall because she's already that good and proven. Give her a role on the main roster and it will work. Um, you've had a great idea about Kiana James truly building up a killer stable. She'd fit into that beautifully.
Yeah.
She she's a very good wrestler. She's got a very she's kind of niche to WWE because
TNA.
she I'm not saying they don't have a lot of power based women, obviously Rhea, Bianca, and all that, but she's a lot of power in a small package, like suplex, almost like a Kurt Angle suplex machine type of deal, you know?
Rick Steiner.
Yeah,
That's your comp. Rick
yep.
Steiner or Taz.
Taz is a great comp for her,
Taz
actually.
is Taz is your comp. But like the thing that frustrates me about Jordan Grace is they've taken somebody who I was so excited to see that they signed and they're gonna give this like and it's almost like they loved her and then they got Stephanie like wait a minute hold on you wait your turn then they got Julia and they're like no just wait and then they got Blake so it's like every time she's gonna be the person and speaking of why I think you're correct she's not next because I know who next is so we had a three-way match also on this card which was Lola Vice versus Kalani Jordan versus Jada Parker. The winner gets the title shot at No Mercy in Fort Lauderdale. Fort Lauderdale is the is the piece of the puzzle that then told me Lola Vice was winning the match. Lola Vice is from Miami.
Yep.
This is her coming out like she's going to win the title, and the reason is she's going to go to AAA and defend it. And I was like, okay, so Lola Vice is gonna win, and she did win. But look, in this match, I gotta say, man, Kalani Jordan, you gotta get that woman to the main roster immediately, or you gotta do something with her substantial because what a talent she. All three of these women are really good, but like Kalani Jordan has it, and whatever it is, she has it. She looked
I
great in this match.
I bought Kalani Jordan stock is just about as early as I bought
You
Sasha
did.
Banks stock back in the day. Um, I, might be what I think she went to Central Michigan or Eastern Michigan or something like
Mhm.
that. One of those Michigan schools. So a little biased, but no, Shawn Michaels deserves a lot of credit. She is this super bubbly baby face with a baby face move set that because there wasn't room for her on the main roster, she stuck around NXT for a while. And they've basically pushed her out of her comfort zone. She's gone heel, she's gone tweener, kind of misaligned at some points, but I actually think it's really helped her grow into a full-fledged character instead of just like I'm so likable, so like me was
Yeah.
kind of, how it started. Um the ring work is fantastic, continues to get better. Her and I actually think that her and Sol Ruka are the two most talented women in NXT from a um
In ring.
in-ring offense based,
Okay.
offense is not the only thing that exists in ring, but if we're just talking about, making stuff look cool, they're both very good as you could see in their matches. But she's learning to be a in-ring general. Um I think she probably called this match, right? I would guess she's the one who called this match unless
I'm
Jay.
gonna take a guess that it's her. Yes.
Yeah,
Looking at the way it was structured, I would think she kind of was, as they say, the lead
the lead in this.
for this match. Yeah.
So if you didn't watch the match, she was impressive enough tonight, and I disagree with this tweet. Um, Not the Kalani side, but a pretty big internet wrestling account tweeted Kalani Jordan, something along the lines of, is so good and so talented. She is a future main eventer, literally even has more upside than Roxanne. And the replies are like, whoa, whoa. And it's like you're mixed because it's like, you know what, Kalani, if you just stop that she has main event upside, yes. More upside than Roxanne, huge statement to make. Um, she looked very good tonight. To even be talked about as someone who's got upside like that is in the ball is great.
You called the Kalani Jordan thing very, very early. Kudos to you. You saw it. I'd like to take a victory lap that I told everybody, do not worry about Roxanne being booked on the main roster, and that she would be very well taken care of. And I have knocked that one out of the park. She in the last week, if I was just dropped onto this earth, I would think Roxanne is the biggest star in women's wrestling. In this last week, she broke the internet with her appearance at AAA. Then on
Mm-hmm.
Monday Night Raw, she was escorting Raquel to the ring and she broke the internet again. And then she did her interview with Chris Van Vliet and people are like drooling over her. And I'm like, okay, you know what? Off to the races we go with Roxanne because they have big plans for her.
Okay, you were right. To be fair, I never sold one unit of my Roxanne stock. I just looked at it and worried, but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
never sold it.
Well, and there was reason to worry because she okay,
Never sold it though.
but here's the thing though. If the one thing we know about Paul Levesque as a head booker is he does like his work rate queens.
Yes.
Sasha Banks, Io, Roxanne, right? Like he does have an affinity for these women who can go out and have killer matches and they always are in the mix somewhere. And then on the okay, so then on this card we had another women's match. What was the other women's match?
The other women's match, I'll set the stage. Um, was a TNA women's
Uh,
title match with JC Jane, who's the double champion,
mhm.
uh, Ash by Elegance, and who's the third person in the match?
Oh, Masha
Masha. Yeah,
Slamovich.
yeah,
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 yeah.
Masha Slamovich. So Ash by Elegance, the former Dana Brooke, is your new TNA champion. And I particular particularly think that it is a um, wonderful place for her to win this title. Say what you want about Dana Brooke, Ash by Elegance, done a lot of really good work in TNA. And what I mean by say, I don't want to sound negative. Say what you want. She has worked her ass off.
Mm-hmm.
She was put in a actually really big spot. If you think of all the non-horsewomen women who came up to main roster around that same time, she was given one of the biggest spots of any of them. She was given the Charlotte Flair sidekick protege spot, probably before she was ready for it, but that didn't stop her from working at it. That didn't stop her from getting better. She took that 24/7 title gimmick and ran with it as best she possibly could. And, you know, um, they cut her when they have far less talented people on the roster on, I'll say, the men's side, just to be less controversial. And I know everyone listening will agree with that. And she's gone out there and done well by TNA, and this is her first go around with this belt. So congratulations to Ash by Elegance. I thought it was cool.
Good match, solid match. The story of the inevitable fatal influence breakup is happening.
Yeah,
And getting Ash by Elegance to pin Masha means that they can carry their feud to TNA programming, which is good. I'll say this one thing about the former Dana Brooke, the now Ash by Elegance. She is a sliding doors moment to why we never got Sasha Banks Bayley at WrestleMania. And this is a true story. And I know this, I have this sourced from somebody I know who used to work in WWE. The original plan in 2016 was to do Sasha Banks Bayley for the title, Charlotte Dana Brooke as the Virgil Million Dollar Man blow off, where Dana Brooke was going to cost Charlotte in one of those matches, the Falls Count Anywhere, the Cage, the Iron Woman, those series of matches. She was going to be the reason Charlotte Flair lost the belt because Charlotte kept yelling at her, beating her down, punching her in the face, da 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 da. And they were going to have a singles match at Mania separate from a title.
that would have been at 33, right?
33. And then it was going to be
Yeah.
Sasha Banks defending the title against Bayley and losing to the person that by that point the story was she could never beat Bayley, which is the Rey Mysterio Eddie Guerrero story. And because she was, again, you and I are not saying she is this bad. She was this bad as a performer. I think a lot of that stuff in old 2016, 2017 WWE was poor management. But from the source I have, she was so poorly seen as a performer in that feud, in that story, that they scrapped it and reworked everything. And that's why you got the mess that was Mania 33, which was a five, was it a four-way? Ah, there you go. There's a four-way for you. Uh,
It was a five-way because there was one of the victors was a turnbuckle.
Yes, yes. So my point is that kudos to her. Congratulations. You worked your tail off, Ash by Elegance. You deserve it. I'm glad they gave her the opportunity. I found her work in TNA to be very entertaining. And what TNA has become is a place to go to rehab yourself, to get back to the main roster, main WWE roster, because TNA will be acquired by WWE. It's a matter of time. Um, you could. I'm going to use my Paul Heyman quote here. This is not a spoiler. It's going to happen. But I think Ash by Elegance winning. And then before we get to our top five, which everybody is excited for this week, there was a mixed persons match, a mixed tag match.
Someone was very over in that match.
Yes, it was the Canadians
Yeah,
in a match in Lowell, Massachusetts against two American medalists, and the two American medalists got booed. And so, what's funny? We're here talking before we recorded about why we thought this crowd just so overwhelmingly did not like what is his name? Steele, and who's the other gentleman?
Tyra May Steele and Tavion Heights.
Tyron Steele, Tavion Heights. And it hit me as you talked about your two segments ago why. I think that was the wrestling fans. Those are real wrestling fans in the Lowell messages. They're not people paying $70,000 for a front row ticket. You know what they rebelled against? The formula. They looked at two people, Ethan Page, Chelsea Green, who have grinded to independence to get to their lifelong dream of WWE. And they were not going to let two cookie cutter factory Olympians who never really liked wrestling but have athletic background, they weren't going to accept them.
That
I
is,
think that's
yeah,
what it was. I think the crowd just said, you know what? You're not going to shove cookie cutter factory, generic characters down our throat. We had Kurt Angle. We had Chad Gable. We don't need more. And these guys, they didn't have the love and the background that they did. I think maybe that's what that was tonight. I think maybe there's nothing more to that than that. What did you think of the match? Did you watch the match?
I did. I didn't get to pay as much of attention. Uh, so, I wouldn't be able to grade it without rewatching it. I was a little bit jarred, as you were, how over the Canadians were, but not really, because I really think Chelsea's done some of the best work in wrestling character wise the last year plus. Since she took that ladder bump on Money in the Bank, which I guess is 2 years ago now,
Yeah.
um, she's been really, really good. I liked her run with the U.S. title. It's not her fault they had her beat Michin a lot. um, I wouldn't have had her lose her title to Zelina Vega. Um, so some of that stuff was mismanaged. I like Secret Hervis, but I think that Chelsea is doing the most with. If you had a ratio of impact to time spent on TV, Chelsea's one of the best in the
She's
business, again,
great.
the most out of her TV time. And I do think that a hardcore fan base like Lowell, Massachusetts is going to resonate that over, hey, this person has great suplexes because they're Olympic gold medalists.
And there was a lot of controversy with Steele winning LFG because a lot of people didn't like her winning an LFG. They were just like mad that she won. If you watch LFG, a lot of people thought she's on Evolve now.
Jin,
Jin, everybody thought she should have won.
Jin's great.
So, maybe that's part of the story, but yeah, so like I thought NXT Heatwave was a great representation of the women that they have in the company. And, a lot of women made air. And I mean, they said it on commentary. This pay-per-view is kind of built around the women, even though the main event was, Oba against Javon Evans. Did Javon Evans win?
We started recording when that was going on. I saw someone tweet that Oba got pinned, but it didn't count. And then I saw behind over your shoulder. If you're watching this on YouTube and you don't know who won, it happened over Raj's shoulder about a minute into the recording. So I did see Oba standing tall when we started the podcast. I
Oh,
think it's top five time.
it is.
Top
So,
five
oh, I see
women's
what you're saying.
promos.
Oba is the champ, and the next contender is Ricky Saints. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, I'll keep my Ricky Saints comments for another podcast because we don't talk about the men on this one. But Blake Monroe against Kalani Jordan Tuesday. They had a backstage altercation.
Sweet. I'll be there.
That's good. All right, so top five. I want to thank you guys. We have been searching, quite honestly, for a segment that we can interact with all of you. We did the draft, we did other things, and none of them seem to resonate. And we're a startup company, and one of the things we know about business is You pivot when something doesn't work very quickly. You get out. You do not keep trying to beat people over the head with something they don't want.
Right.
The top five segment last week got some of the best responses that we have received. And what was interesting is universally people agreed with our number one. Universally, people agreed that the Sasha Banks, Becky Lynch, Hell in a Cell 2019 match that opened the show, Becky, the queen of opening pay-per-views, is the best women's tip match. Now, a lot of people loved the Mariah May Tony match. I got feedback that Bayley Sasha was better, but they understand why we picked the one with the crowd. A lot of people love that Willow Chris match. I was shocked at how many people agreed with you that I should have had it on my list and you had it where it should be. But this week, so upcoming
We
top.
are not getting unanimous,
No.
universal
This
happiness
is going to
this
be
week. It's not
controversial.
happening.
So, in the next 2 to 3 weeks, we are going to give you the top five women's entrance themes of all time based on what our opinions are. Top five women's ring gear. You know, who has the best ring gear? And maybe that's a combination category. I got a great one. Top five women's matches that were snubbed by a certain Observer newsletter in
That one
terms
will be fun
of
because we'll have to do some real research too.
research.
And
And then the top five women's matches outside of North America.
mm,
So those are some that are going to come in the upcoming weeks. But this is a very special one because I think me and my esteemed colleague here, co-host, we see women's wrestling very similar. You know, Mercedes, Io Mercedes. We both think Rhea is top tier, Bianca's top tier, Klein Jordan, Roxanne. Like we're on the same page. But when it comes to promos, I think we are diametrically opposed.
we
So
are
we are going to now unveil our list. Now, last week you went first, so this week I'm gonna go first. So let me get
perfect.
my trusty whiteboard here. Before I unveil my top five, I want to point out that my number one until yesterday, I kicked her out of it because she's not really a wrestler, even though she did hold the Women's World Championship. I think the best talker in the history of women's wrestling is Stephanie McMahon. But I did not put her on the list because I don't think she's a professional wrestler. I think she's a character. My honorable mentions are Stephanie McMahon, Naomi, Bianca Belair, Carmella, Sherry Martel, Medusa. Now, here are my top five. Actually, let me read it and then I'll show you my board. Number five, I have Bayley, our loving role model slash hugger slash um you're an idiot. I think Bayley has become one of the best mic individuals in wrestling over the last 2.5, 3 years. I think she's been phenomenal. She was phenomenal as a heel against the then babyface Sasha Banks. I think she was phenomenal in the psycho kind of character against Bianca Belair. I think she was phenomenal against Io as the babyface.
Hmm.
Because here's the thing about the Io feud. She had to carry it on the mic. Because Io's promo style works when she's a babyface. It doesn't really work as a heel.
Right.
So she had to carry it. My number four, this woman, I think, cut the singular best women's promo of all time. However, that promo, I think, is controversial because it leans into tropes that we as two males who do a women's podcast do not want to go down that path of plastic, fake this, fake that. AJ Lee is my number four. She was the general manager of Monday Night Raw for an extended amount of time. She had to talk every week, and she's a great microphone worker. My number three is Becky Lynch. And if you want to know how great Becky Lynch is, go watch SmackDown, which I don't think was a good show this week, but her intro promo turning her home country against her was phenomenal mic work. She is great. I think she's exactly what a heel promo should be. She knows how to nudge and jab the fans. She's better than you, etc. Becky, huge fan. Number two, everybody thought this would be my number one, but it's not. My number two is Alexa Bliss. I think the most consistent woman on the microphone ever. I have never ever heard a bad Alexa Bliss promo. She's never stuttered. She's never paused. She's never froze. She has always just nailed it. But she's not number one. And my number one is timeless Tony Storm. And the reason I put the timeless Tony Storm is I don't think rocker chick Tony Storm was that much of a good promo or an inspiring promo. But timeless Tony Storm, I can make the case, is the best promo in all of wrestling, male or female. I
Yep.
think she's as good as anybody on the microphone today. When she talks, I listen. When she talks, I am glued to my screen. I don't know what's going to come out of her mouth, but she is phenomenal. The stuff she said to Mercedes, the stuff she said to Athena, the stuff she does with Tony Khan in those press conferences, just so entertaining. She's phenomenal. So those are my top five women's promos of all time. Let me go again in order. 5 to 1. Bayley, AJ Lee, Becky Lynch, Alexa Bliss, Timeless Tony Storm. Those are my five.
I am going to disappoint our listeners and say that if there is controversy, it's going to be them versus us because our lists are pretty similar.
Okay.
Not matches by any means. What I put into this for me, a promo is selling a fight, and I did take into account a woman that you could throw out there into the deep end and let her talk for 10 minutes and she could do it. And I did score that. I don't like that. I don't want a man to do it. I don't want a woman to do it. But I had to give credit where credit is due.
And you're
But I
very
also,
consistent in that. You're very
yes,
consistent that let me ask you this before you give your list. Do you think in the history of wrestling, and you've been watching wrestling a long time, is there any singular performer you want to hear talk for 10 minutes?
the person who started it in the ring being a thing by himself is Stone Cold. And I enjoyed Stone Cold talking for 10 minutes by himself.
Okay.
But
Yes.
actually, that's my point. Think about every great Macho Man promo you can think of, all the famous ones, the Ric Flair ones. Where were they standing?
They were in the back.
They were not in the ring. They were in the back. They were in the back.
Yeah.
The talking forever in the ring thing is a Stone Cold Rock really made that a thing. All the Hulk Hogan promos, vitamins, all in the back. The flexing, all in the back. He didn't talk in the ring. If he talked in the ring, it was on like a Piper's Pit or something. He was being interviewed. But one guy out there just jabbering for a minute or for 10 minutes by themselves was Stone Cold, really.
Yeah.
So I did not, my list really didn't weigh too heavily on that, but my honorable mention does. And I'm going to use my soapbox. Mercedes Moné, Sasha Banks is an honorable mention because on the Ric Flair Macho Man level of selling a fight in the back, she is one of the best. She didn't make my top five because you don't, it's not her wheelhouse to stick her out there to just talk for 10 minutes. And so she's not my top five, but she gets hated for her mic work. And in the old school 80s, 90s of wrestling, she would have been considered one of the best. She's got one-liners that stick with us forever when she's interviewed by someone, when she's in the back, post-match, things like that. She's good at all that stuff. So my other honorable mentions were Bianca, Naomi, who almost made the list based off of her work this year.
Honestly, I thought Naomi had maybe the second best women's promo of all time on Monday night. I thought that was one of the best things I've ever listened to. She was great. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So my number five was one of your honorable mentions, Sherry Martel.
Yeah.
I grew up on Sensational Sherry. For people that don't know, she was a wrestler too. Most of her mic work was done as a manager, but I just have too many good memories of her being great on the mic to not have her on the list. And by the way, all those promos were in the back, in front of the lockers with Harlem Heat and whoever she was representing at the time. I had the same exact number 4 as you for the same exact reasons you had it. AJ Lee, number 4. We're on the same page. Number 4. The women's pipe bomb promo, controversial, but you can't say that, again, the harder part of this, hey AJ, take this mic and go entertain the crowd for 10 minutes. She would do very, very well. My top 3, I really weighted heel and face dynamics. And I landed with the top 2 that have accomplished the highest level of mic work as both faces and heels. So that is why I have Timeless Tony Storm currently as number 3 on my list. Babyface only, entertainment wise only, probably number 1. She created a genre of mic work that I don't think we knew existed. Now, she gets a cool, I'm sure she can do this as a heel. I'm sure she could be just as ridiculous and sell a match as a heel. Just haven't seen it yet. I switched my top 2 a lot. And ultimately I landed on, I have Bayley as my number 2.
Okay.
And I have Bayley as my number 2. She is certainly the most improved on this list. There was a time where the joke was to keep her away from a mic, Hugger Bayley. She had some tough goes on the main roster. I give her a ton of credit because not only did she carry the feud on the mic with Io, but she had a heel. She turned from heel to face basically through a promo. Not so much in the ring, right? We all remember, and it will always stick with me that she came into the ring. We all had a bad feeling she was going to get turned on, and she wasn't a dumbass babyface. She had a pipe with her. Like, beyond the words, just that whole thing sticks out to me. But she had her own talk show, Ding Dong Hello, hosted WrestleMania. So I had her at number 2. I don't have Alexa on my list. Alexa doesn't make me want to watch a fight. You say I've been consistent. I have. Number 1 on my list, and someone who for a long time was my second favorite wrestler in the world. She isn't currently. I don't dislike her work, but I think Becky is the best women's worker on the mic. And that is because I've seen her sell main event level matches as a face.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen her sell main event level matches as a heel. And that's what I care about. I want to watch the match. And I actually probably would have had her lower than Tony and Bayley, but I think she did a really good job with Lyra. And I'm big on committing to getting booed if you're the heel. And I'm glad they changed her music because the music is a trigger for people to cheer her. And I think she's committed to being booed, and I appreciate that. And so I wanted to give her credit. The recent heel work on the mic has been very good. Obviously, in 2018, she was in a world of her own on the mic, and she used the mic work to ascend higher than any woman had ever at the time. Because I'll tell you this, not trying to piss anyone off, she ain't Sasha Banks in the ring. She's not Mercedes in the ring. Her stardom was catapulted on being good in the ring and great on the mic.
So you're
So I
talking
have her as number 1 ever.
pre-baby Becky Lynch.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, obviously there's a big omission based on our 2 lists, right? As it's Alexa Bliss. And you mentioned that Sasha Banks is in your honorable mentions because she knows how to sell a fight.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me ask you this question. Who do you think is the best wrestler in the world?
Mercedes.
Okay. So if Mercedes came out there and said, you know, the cat in the hat is where I combat, you'd probably be like, yeah, I want to see that match because you think she's the best in the ring. So she doesn't have to really sell a match on the microphone because she's so good in the ring that most people with her want to get to the match. They don't want to hear the promo. They're like, just get to the match because you're that good, right? Is that fair?
No, and here's my rebuttal. She was as cold as she's ever been in her career when she was thrown into a 3 week feud with Ronda Rousey before Royal Rumble. And she sold that as a must see fight on the mic. She had no business saying she was good enough to beat Ronda Rousey. And she had people
I was in
wanting to
that
see the
crowd. I
match.
was in that crowd at the Phoenix baseball stadium. And there were people in the crowd telling me, she's so good. Why don't they use her better in the ring? Like there are people there. Remember, we forget this is the same woman who got "We Want Sasha" chants when she wasn't even in the city. So
Right.
my point is, she is great in the ring, right? She is all time great. But when she picks up a microphone, I don't care what she says. I want to see her wrestle anyway. I don't
Yeah.
really care if she could sit there and say, you know what, your mom is hideous, Raj. I'd be like, yeah, I want to see you wrestle. Like,
Doesn't the same thing apply to Macho Man?
yeah, no, but the thing, yes, but Macho Man's promos were way better than Sasha Banks's. Like, come on, this is not even fair. What I'm saying is, and let me flip it around now. I think that's the bias held against Alexa Bliss, is that no matter what Alexa Bliss says, in certain people's mind, they do not care to see her wrestle. So they don't care what she says. So
And
she can cut the greatest promo. And again, she can
but
cut the great, but you've said this, your payoff, like most wrestling fans, is the match, right? Like Sasha and Bianca building up to the match had a crappy build up, right? Like it sucked. But when they got in the ring and they had the match, we all forgot about how crappy the buildup was because they're great wrestlers. Look, I am a huge Alexa Bliss fan, but to be fair, she's not what these other women are as wrestlers. She's not as good as Bayley. She's not as good as Becky. She's not as good as Timeless Tony Storm. So Alexa Bliss can pick up a microphone, right, and say everything great. But Billy has never been invested in her as a wrestler.
so two things. Smoothest talker out there, I she's probably number one. Alexa, probably number one.
Yeah.
Smoothest talker. Shut up the what chance better than anyone I've ever seen. She undermines baby faces, which I don't like. So it's not about the
Yes.
fight. I've always been consistent. She undermines her baby faces
Fair.
to get cool points. Number two, the the she went one on one with Sasha Banks on the mic, not in a ring, but on Raw Talk. And she went one on one with Charlotte Flair, not in a ring, but on Raw Talk. And she got her ass handed to her both times in that format. When Sasha and Charlotte didn't have to be scripted, nice baby faces and they could punch her back, they both did. Right?
You're talking about Sasha saying you don't know the difference between Matt and Jeff Hardy, and
That
then
whole thing she tore up for 2 minutes. That's the line that everyone remembers.
yeah,
And
right.
then the Survivor Series pre-show.
The Survivor Series pre-shows for sure, but like it's kind of like yeah, that's that did happen, but like she's also resurrected Charlotte's career. But it's like the thing is funny because when Sasha said that about her, people thought it was great, but when she said, "Hey, you can't defend a title," nobody liked that, right? Like
Well,
nobody liked it, but it was
but
true.
she's the baby face and she lost. So you're
Right,
undermining the
right,
baby
right. No,
faces.
the promo would have been fine if Sasha actually won the match, right? Like if she defended her title, it would have worked,
Totally.
right?
Right.
But the fact that Alexa came out and then goes, Sasha Banks defend the title. When does
But
that ever happen? And then she won.
so again, I concede talent, speaking talent, she absolutely is one of the greatest ever. None of the content has ever moved me, nor does I think it progresses her feuds beyond the matches.
I think you
And
could make
because
a
when she
case
was,
that in what
she's
you're,
much better now.
yeah, you could make a case that what you're looking for, she's doing her best work in that context
Now,
now. The
correct.
stuff with Charlotte, hey, we don't have to be friends. We just have to be allies of convenience. Like all the stuff she's doing now
Furthering
is further.
furthering the story, keeping it, yes. But her peak of her
She
power,
was
that
also the general manager of Raw.
she was, you're right.
We forget about that, right? Like she was the general manager of Raw, but like I don't remember too. I just remember her being like it was almost like you're not medically cleared yet because she had the concussion. We're just gonna give you a microphone because we know people like you and you can talk. And again, I don't disagree with what you're saying. I think when Mercedes or Sasha Banks said, my name's bigger than your title, and when she says, I'm a star, like the stuff she did with the Bayley feud, I thought she sold the match really, really well. A match I already wanted to see anyway, but clearly other people got drawn in by that because the ratings were bigger than the hardcore fan base. It drew a casual monster number. So she in that case did do her job. But yeah, so yeah, this was I was in going into it. I was curious. Okay, is he gonna put Alexa Bliss on the list, or is he not? And I think everybody from my end, I got messages. People were like, "You better put Mercedes in the top five." And I literally told people then she's not gonna make my top five. She might make honorable mention. Um, But again, maybe it's because she's such a great wrestler that I don't really care what she has to say on the microphone because I just want to see the match anyway. So maybe that's a cheat code and that's not her fault. But
Yeah. I I you know, I didn't put Alexa in my honorable mention because you had her at number two, and I knew we were going to talk about it anyway. I mean, I'm not even saying I have Sasha in front of her. I felt the need to talk
oh,
about
I get
Sasha's
you. Yeah.
record. Um, the Carmella stuff was very good. You mentioned the
Yeah.
Bayley stuff.
Yeah.
Carmella stuff was good. The Jamie Hayter stuff, by the way, that one was in ring. The Jamie Hayter promo in ring before Double or Nothing was one of my favorites, and she held her own with Tony, at least in the backstage stuff for sure. So not top five though.
No, no. And
Like
look,
not top five.
it's fair because there are a lot of other people who listen to our podcast who share your opinion, who feel like undercutting a baby face to make yourself look good. Like there's my favorite Alexa Bliss promo. And the reason it's a favorite of mine is because when she got the promo, I wanted to tweet what she said, but I didn't have the guts because a lot of people I know would not be my friends anymore. Bailey and Sasha were opening Raw, or they had a segment, and this is the night she got drafted to Raw, and she goes, "Can you two be any more nauseating?" And honestly, if I'm being blunt, I thought the hugger Bailey and the I am the 10-year-old who loves Eddie Guerrero, Sasha Banks were nauseating. Like I could not stand their characters. It was awful. So when she said that, I was like, she's speaking for me. Because I wanted to say that, but I didn't have the guts like Alexa Bliss did. But she said it and I couldn't, but I wanted to because I found both of them nauseating. And I know I'm right because they both were getting then booed mercifully, as baby faces, mercilessly. So, yeah, I think we have both of us have made really good points about our lists. Next week, right now, so there's two that are tied. Top five women's entrance themes and top five women's ring gear. Those are the two. So we're probably going to do both of them in the next 2 weeks. So let's just call it right now. We're gonna do top five entrance themes next week.
I'm in.
Entrance themes. So this is your ring music, and this is there's a lot of good women's themes. A lot of
Yep.
good women's themes. All right.
So, what a hell of a week in women's wrestling. One of my favorite weeks. Um, Appreciate anyone who's listened this deep into the show. Hope you guys enjoyed the top five. I just really enjoyed everything we got to watch this week across the board. Um, any last thoughts?
Yes, I think you would agree with this. In fact, I thought you were going to say it. Congratulations to Trinity and Jimmy Uso for their announcement that Trinity is pregnant and they are
Round of
expecting
applause.
their first child together as a couple. Those of you who know Naomi or Trinity's story, she's attempted before and she's been seen as a high risk pregnancy, so she never thought this would happen. And this is a blessing, and that's the only word I can use. This is absolutely something that should be celebrated. And I thought the crowd on Monday night was so great for her. And I thought she
Yep.
cut one of the best women's promos of all time. And I thought that the crowd was going to cheer her no matter what, and they should. Because she has done she had as memorable a 36-day title reign as you can ever have. Because that's all it was, 36 days. And it was phenomenal. Um,
Yep.
and look, she, as she said, she's gonna come back and get the heifers that are gonna have her belt. But I think what we will talk about next week, and we'll get to flush this out on Monday. What are they gonna do with the women's title? Because it was supposed to be Stephanie Vacour against Naomi at Clash at Paris, and you wonder if they know now what they knew about Naomi. Would they have taken the belt off her at SummerSlam?
We
Probably.
will find. We will. Yeah, probably. We will find out. But if they knew, they wouldn't have let her wrestle. So, um, we'll find out that. And then I think the AEW Dynamite show is going to be very interesting. What direction does Tony Storm go? What direction does Mercedes Moné go? We've got Jamie Hayter back. Looks like they're really setting up a blood and guts match, tag division. Something big's going on the undercard there. Um, so Dynamite's going to be really cool, and I'm very interested to see the direction Raw goes. Dynamite's going to be a big one. Tony Khan, if anyone who works for you is listening, Swerve's going to be out. Osprey's going to be out. Push the women.
Yeah, push
Push
the
the
women,
damn women.
but push
More of them.
all of them. Push
All of them.
Tekla, push everybody. Again, thank you guys. Numbers are great. We're doing very well. We love the trajectory of this podcast. We couldn't do it without you. Shout out to 7 new people who discovered this podcast because of my hip hop albums group chat, who didn't know I was a wrestling fan, saw my tweet, and then messaged me and said, "Oh, how long have you been a wrestling fan? I'm watching Forbidden Door. I named my son after Owen Hart." And I'm like, "Well, it's funny you say that. We have this podcast." They're like, "You do?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's," and they're like, "Great." And they subscribed and I saw it. So thank you to all 7 of you in the group chat. You know who you are. Now you'll be watching this, so you'll know who I am talking about. We'll be back next week. Top five women's entrance themes. We will have clarity on WWE. And what we have not got to talk about yet is Tiffany, this Nia Jax Becky Lynch team that came out of nowhere, which I was very entertained by. But we'll talk about that next week. And we will be previewing Clash at Paris that has no women's matches. So we won't be previewing it. We're lying. All right.
Yep.
Talk to you guys next week.
Thanks, everyone.